Film is a disease, Frank Capra said. When it infects your bloodstream, it takes over as the number one hormone. It plays Iago to your psyche. As with heroin, the antidote to film is more film.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to my Celluloid Heart podcast. Yay! Anyway, this podcast is, of course, I have to explain in case you're new to the show. It's where I take two films and I bring them together with one topic or theme, and I put trivia in between there and mix it all up and make a sousson, if you will. And a warning, there will be spoilers in this episode. So you've been warned. Every episode will have spoilers. So, today's episode, as you can see by the title, is called You Gotta Be Fucking Kidding Me. The Thing from Another World from 1951 and The Thing from 1982. John Carpenter's The Thing, to be more precise. And some corrections from the last show. There are none, actually, because I kind of fix that, on the last show. But if there's anything else that I miss or anything on this show, let me know. Send me some recommendations for some movies you want me to talk about. And you can send those questions and comments and whatever, hate mail, to mycelluloidheart@gmail.com. And so before I get into what I've been watching in the movies and the theater, something that was interesting that happened to me. So October didn't really happen to me. Anyway, let me tell you a little story. So it's October, so I thought I'll do some horror stuff. Everybody's doing, it's October, let's do Halloween, horror. I'm doing air quotes. So I said, okay, I'll do something like that. I'll fit in. I'll go ahead and jump in and do the whole get into the spirit. So I said, what should I do? I said, well, I really like the original The Thing from Another World. And The Thing, John Carpenter's The Thing, I borrowed. Shame on me, I don't own it. I own The Thing from Another World, but I do not own the other one from 82. But I borrowed it from Brant, who was been on the podcast before. And so I thought, you know what, I have that and I haven't watched it lately. So maybe I'll watch that and I'll do the show on both of the things, and that'll be great. And one of the reasons, because you may go, well, that thing is science fiction. Like, it's a 1951 sci-fi monster film. Well, monster, it's an alien, it's a creature. I think I keep calling it monster in my notes. But it's kind of scary. I was thinking, if I'm watching this 1951, I'm going to be freaked out because it's a little, they set him on fire. It's like, oh my gosh, like, I don't know how I would take that if, I was in the theater in 51 and be like, holy shit. And Ebert, said this was one of his favorite movies as a kid when he watched it in the theater. It was like amazing. But about The Thing from 1982, I've talked about it till it's, it's a dead horse that I'm beating up after it's dead. That's why they call it beating a dead horse. And it is the scene with the dog splitting open that will always be in my imagery, in my head, that I remember when I was 10 years old. Or, well, I guess I was 11 in 82, came out on video. Maybe I'm 12, but maybe it came out later that year. I don't know. They said E.T. blew it out of the box office, so it didn't do well in the theater. But that's an image. Things that I remember in my childhood are, I was thinking of this tonight before I started recording. Today, it's the daytime. I worked 12-hour shift, came home, doing the podcast to put out today because that's when it's supposed to be out, but I was busy. But that's what I get for setting my time for Wednesday. I want it done. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. When I was little, I went to my uncle's. My dad and I went to my uncle's farm to see my uncle to tell him something here in Arizona. And we knock on the door, and my uncle doesn't answer. And my uncle, it's a farm. My aunt and uncle aren't home, and they have chickens, they have goats, they had a horse, and all of a sudden, I'm standing off of the porch, like in the dirt, and like these 4 or 5 chickens come at me, and I am little, so I'm down to the chickens' level. They're like at my chest, and my dad goes, "Get out of here." And all of a sudden I start freaking out because they're all like fluttering around me because they probably think I have food, but I don't know that when I'm little. And I'm like, ah, ah, because they're fluttering around, ah, ah, and I'm getting really freaked out. And my dad goes, "Get out of here, get out of here." And he starts like trying to kick at him and push him. And he picks up a rock and he throws at one. And he said he actually hit it in the head. The thing like fell over, like got knocked out for a second. And then, like, gets up and shakes its head and runs off. And I always remember, that's something that I remember, being afraid of these chickens. So if you're afraid of something and you're called a chicken because you're afraid of it, then aren't you... What is a person who's afraid of chickens? He's got to be even worse than a chicken. And I don't know what that would be. So that's just something that I thought of that made me... It's those images, the chickens, the dog from the thing splitting open. It's the, as I said, my parents were watching that on Betamax, and I went in the other room. I could not. I was like, and I think my parents then thought, oh, we didn't know what this was. Okay, we gotta leave, go in the other room, and then the drill in Body Double. I always remember that drill through the floor. I remember Freddy with the long arms going down the hallway, or down the, on the fence. And I remember certain things, like nothing's coming to mind right now, but certain things and imagery, and this is why movies are great. This is why I love movies, because certain things just stick with you, and there's certain things that are great, and so that's why, if anybody's asking, why are you doing a sci-fi movie, if that's what you consider it, but I consider it, it's a monster movie, it's sci-fi monster, whatever you want to call it. So that's why I'm doing it, and I've been thinking about it, and I need to watch it again, but I think that I really like The Thing from Another World. It is so good, and anybody who hasn't seen it really needs to check it out. Sorry, I was having some of my Tasso tea, so it's really good. It's, for the Keurig, delicious. Anyway, so some newest movies that I've watched at home and in the theaters are 68 Kill from 2017. Had the guy from Criminal Minds, like, the guy that's all the brainiac. He's in it, and he's this girlfriend that's like a real, bitch, and just treats him like shit. And she wants to rob this guy that pays her for sex. And they go to rob him, and all hell goes wrong. And they're only supposed to rob him, but she kills him. And then all of a sudden, now they're on the run. And the boyfriend didn't want to kill anybody. He just wanted to steal the money and have a good time. So it's really good. It's really weird, but it was good. Not really good. It was good. Good and weird. If you like good and weird, then go ahead and check it out. And then I saw The Shining in 4K in the theater on the big screen. I sat right up front because the whole thing was full. I said, fuck it. On that Quentin Tarantino thing that I read, and I read it from another director They said, where do you like to sit in the theater? They said the second or third row so I can see everything. Like, that's the immersion of the movie. And so I sat in like the third row and was right down at the bottom. But these theaters now, they're bigger, so they're not like when we were little and you're not way up front and creaking your neck. And the seats recline, so that's a little better. So it was nice. I went by myself, went there, watched the movie. Oh, God damn, it was good. Such a good movie. It looked beautiful. Oh, it's just amazing. As you all know, if you've seen The Shining, and now you're going, Phillip, it's October, you could have done The Shining. Yeah, I know. And I did win I was going to keep it hush because I never know if I'm supposed to say things about what I win, but I did win some digital codes. I tripped over my words. Let me drink some more tea. I won some digital codes from a podcast recently, and The Shining was one of them in 4K, and the other one was Blade Runner 2049, which was awesome because I was going to buy Blade Runner, and then right then it comes like, boom, here you go. Oh, awesome. So early Christmas present for me. And The Shining, I was like, oh, I got to get, because I thought I had it on Blu-ray, but I haven't checked. I might. I don't even know. I have 2001, and I have, anyway, that's neither here nor there. Anyway, so I have those digital codes. I have digital movies now. Very awesome. Then my House of a Thousand Corpses came in, 2003. I watched that. This movie, when I first saw it, and maybe it's because I'm getting a little more into horror now, but when I first saw that, I was like, oh, this is like, whatever. It's like not very good. And then when I had looked at it on Amazon, so it came up on our list, and my wife said, did you want that movie? She said, it's like $7 on Blu-ray. I said, yeah, I'll take it. So we took it, and it came with the digital code, which was cool, because on the cover, it doesn't say anything. You open it up, digital code, boom, winner. So I watched it this time, and I was like, oh, my God, that was really good. Like, I really liked it. Like before, I was like, I really like Devil's Rejects is my favorite. And then, I went and saw Three from Hell, like I explained last time. And but this House of a Thousand Corpses, oh my God, it was really good. And Joe Merle said on International House of Horrors, he was talking about that I never even put together. And it also, though, is because I just recently saw Spider Baby a couple weeks ago. It's almost exactly like Spider Baby. It's very, very interesting. The homage and the whatever, the inspiration. And now I saw a movie that I had always seen. The cover didn't look very cool. It just didn't explain much. And I had wanted to see it. I think I had it on my list, but I was like, what is this? It's a movie called I Saw the Devil from 2010. And there's certain movies, like I watch a lot of movies, but sometimes a movie just, boom, hits you. And you're like, holy fucking shit. This movie, I would say recently, something that hit me like that was Bone Tomahawk. Bone Tomahawk, I was like, holy shit, what the fuck is this? This is so great, so good. And same thing with Brawl on Cell Block 99 and Dragged Across Concrete. All that guy, which I'll be doing him later. I'll be doing a podcast on him. But I Saw the Devil. It's like a revenge picture. Like this girl gets killed. Her boyfriend then wants revenge and tries to find the guy that's this serial killer that's killing people. And he finally finds him and like turns the tables on him. And now that guy's being chased. It's a whole cat and mouse. And then that guy, so fucking good. I can't, fuck. So either on this show, I'll be doing a Korean horror with me and Joe Merle, be doing I Saw the Devil and Train to Busan, or we'll be doing it on International House of Horrors. But no matter where, I'm going to be talking about this movie because this movie's fucking good. And if nobody does it with me, then I'll find somebody and I'll make them watch a movie and we'll do it. And that might be better just to introduce somebody new to the movie. So anyway, very cool, very awesome. I'm so great. So everybody check that out. That was on I believe it was Netflix or Hulu, and awesome. I think it was Hulu. And yeah, because then it said other movies that might be like this. Then I saw Rambo: Last Blood from 2019. So there were two showings at about the same time, but in two different theaters. So I said, well, of course, two different showings. Anyway, so I said, I'm going to go to the one that's less full of people. And it had nobody in it, and the other one had a lot of people in it. The other one was a little bigger theater. The other one was a smaller theater. I said, I'll go to that one. Sat there. It was my own private screening. Nobody came in. It was very awesome. I loved it. And the movie was pretty good. It was not great. I think I was expecting more like a like the 2008 one was. Like I was expecting like that brutality, which it was brutal, but it took a while to kind of get up to that. But it was good. Of course, I'll buy it because I have the others, so I'll have to buy it. And and it's good to add to the collection. Then me and the wife rented from Redbox Men in Black International from 2019. That was good. It was fun. It was a lot better than I thought. It's pretty cool. It's too bad that it didn't do as much business as they thought it would, because it was pretty cool. I liked it. Then I saw Child's Play from 2019, this new one, and I really liked it. I liked that they changed things. I liked that. I just liked the way it was different and the same kind of, but it was really neat, really cool. So yeah, check that out. I got that on Redbox as well. Then I saw The Thing from Another World, of course, from 1951, which we'll talk about. I saw Pit Stop from 1969, which, Sid Haig died. And Joe Merle said, check this Pit Stop out. And I said, okay. So it's on Amazon Prime. And again, my wife's like, what are you watching? You go ahead and watch your crappy movie. I'm going to go to bed. I said, okay, honey. So I went to bed. She went to bed. And I watched Pit Stop. And it was really cool. It was different. They did this figure eight racing. I swear it was real because it looked like there was real footage that they just put in. They had real guys racing around and then would cut into a scene of a guy driving in a car. And it was figure eight racing where at that intersection, they might hit each other, they might miss, who knows? And that was the excitement. So it was really cool. And then I went to the theater, me and the wife, and we saw Joker from 2019. And she was like, I really like that, but it was dark. And I said, yeah, it was. It was good and dark, and the movie that you didn't know you wanted, like, do we need a solo Joker movie? And then you see it. It's good about, mental illness. It's good for what it is. Joaquin Phoenix, fucking amazing. He's just good. He's always good. Fucking, I loved him in the Signs. It was great in that and other things. Then I saw The Thing from 1982, of course, which I'll talk about. And then I Walked with a Zombie from 1943. And this movie was interesting. It's on Criterion. And it was this nurse goes down to like Haiti or wherever. And she's helping to make this woman who's like not really responding, and she needs a nurse, and she's supposed to help her, and the doctors are doing everything they can. Nobody can get this woman to just be lively, and they don't know what it is. And it turns out that she's maybe dead. I don't want to ruin it. Might be dead already. So it's very cool. It's 1943. I don't know if anybody'd like it, but I liked it. So, like I said, those are the movies that I saw. I'm sorry if I rambled a lot. A lot of people have told me that they like hearing what I watch. So I like talking about what I watch. And what's exciting when I get through that list, I delete it. And tonight on my night off, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Boom, bada boom, bada boom, boom, boom. I watch a bunch of movies and I make a list again and get ready for the next show. So it's very cool. And coming up, before I get into the show here, coming up on my show, what we're gonna do is we're going to hang on a minute. Okay, sorry, my computer said some stuff to me. Coming up, my cousin, maybe in November, maybe December, but we're going to do a Gamers episode. It's going to be called Gamers, and it's The Last Starfighter and Ready Player One. Even though I already did Ready Player One on here, but we're going to do it upright. And Chip has never seen Ready Player One, so that will be exciting. So I'm doing that with my cousin. I just talked to Matt from Why Daddy Drinks podcast and asked him if he wanted to be on the show. He said yes. I said, what movies would you like to do? He said, I don't know. I said, you choose. He said, how about some Pixar movies? I said, okay, pick 2 movies and let me know. And I said, we'll talk about you watching movies with your kids and making them enjoy it, seeing if they enjoy it. I said, because with my wife, I try to have her, the other day we were watching Emergency. I said, honey, look, this is a good show. You're a nurse. You'll like Emergency. And it's from like 1972 is when it started. And she was like, no, I don't. And I swear she was like, the first time she was like, that was kind of interesting. And I said, okay. Then the next day I was like, don't you want to watch this? And she's like, no, I don't want to watch this crap. It's boring. And I'm like, no, you said. And then she kind of smiled. Okay, well, just not right now. Said, okay. So stuff like that where, people go, I don't want to watch. Like I was watching $6 Million Man yesterday. The pilot movie was on TV. And I'm like, oh, my God. So I watched it. It took forever it was the first movie was over like the day before. Like they cut it in 2 pieces. And the movie was over, and it was to be continued, and he was still in the bed waiting for his robotics. And then the second movie, then the second, part of the pilot or whatever. And it wasn't even the pilot. It was a separate movie, because then I look up on IMDb, $6 Million Man, and I find the series. And I'm like, but this one has the Night Stalker, the guy that played the Night Stalker, and he's in, Joe Murrow's yelling at me right now, because he's the guy in Christmas Story. Darren McGavin. Has Darren McGavin in it. Thank you, Joe Morrow, for sending the thoughts to me. Darren McGavin in it. And not Oscar Goldman. And I'm like, oh, my God, what the hell's going on? And so I can't find it. So finally I look, and then I find that there was a movie that they made. Then they did the series. And then in the series, they did bionics. Like in the movie, there was no slow motion and like no bionic sounds. And they didn't do that until the show started. So, which was like a year later. But anyway, it's very interesting. And I know everybody's going, we didn't tune in to listen to Look at My Bionics, the Bionic Man Chronicles. I know you tuned in to listen to You Gotta Be Fucking Kidding Me. So here we are. So anyway, The Thing from Another World from 1951. The plot is a scientist and American Air Force officials fend off a bloodthirsty alien organism while at a remote Arctic outpost. And it stars, and I know none of you, unless you're big-time movie fans, will know any of these names except for maybe one at the end. So I didn't list them all, but Margaret Sheridan as Nikki Nicholson, Kenneth Tobey as Captain Patrick Henry, he's fucking badass, Robert Cornthwaite as Dr. Arthur Carrington, Douglas Spencer as Ned Scott. Douglas Spencer's really cool. I like him. And James Arness as The Thing. I like the character of Ned Scott is what I should say. And James Arness is the one that I knew that you would all know from Gunsmoke. And now all you young people are going, what is Gunsmoke? That's smoke that comes out of a gun. I know that. No, it was the longest running show in the history of TV, maybe only rivaled by Hawaii Five-0, the original, that lasted like 25 seasons. So there's that. Anyway, It's written by, the screenplays by Charles Lederer, based on the story Who Goes There by John W. Campbell Jr. And Will from Hey Down in Front just wrote me and said, hey, have you read Who Goes There? And I said, no, not yet, but I wanted to before the show, but I wasn't able to. So hopefully I'll be able to read it and I can check back in with you guys and let you know. But anyway, it's directed by Christian Nyby. And Howard Hawks is uncredited as a director. But there's so much controversy through the years of who really directed this movie. And I found a quote by Nyby from 1982 Reunion that said, "Did Hawks direct it? That's one of the most inane and ridiculous questions I've ever heard. And people keep asking that it was Hawks' style. Of course it was. This is a man I studied and wanted to be like. You would certainly emulate and copy the master you're sitting under, which I did. Anyway, if you're taking painting lessons from Rembrandt, you don't take the brush out of the master's hands." So I get that. I think it does really feel like Hawks, and it feels like, if you've seen His Girl Friday and Rio Bravo, like any of other Hawks stuff, Red River, it feels that way. But I'm going to give this guy the benefit of the doubt. If he's a fan of this guy and he wants to learn under him, from what I also read was that the actors would say that Christian Nyby would then run over to Howard Hawks and say something to him and then come back and direct something. So I think it was a little bit of him not having enough confidence in a way. Sorry, I had to pause to drink some of my tea. There, I just drank some more. Sorry to bother you guys. Anyway, so it's interesting. I mean, I think it's both of them, but who knows? Hawks always denied it. So if Hawks denies it, then fuck it. I'll take the credit for that fucking movie. I'll direct. Fuck. Phillip Duke directed. There it is. Directed by Phillip Duke. I did it. So about this movie here, it's got a cool title, which if you've seen the 82 one, it's just like that. It's got like the letters burned in, like really cool. And they're in Anchorage, Alaska. And then the problem is like 2,000 miles north of Anchorage. But in the beginning, when they're in Anchorage, the dialogue is on top of each other, like His Girl Friday. And Howard Hawks does this in his films, which I've talked about before, where he gets off the meaningless parts of the conversation at the end and the beginning. So he'll cut off the one, like somebody saying, "Hey, how are you doing today?" I'm doing fine. They'll cut, "Hey, how are you?" "Hey, what the hell did you?" And then that part will taper off. It didn't make sense with that, but you know what I mean. And then they can just, so all the important stuff you'll hear, the stuff that's overlapped is nothing that you need to know about. But still, it works, and you can hear it and go, "Oh, that's awesome." And it's just so fucking great. I fucking love it. And now they have to fly 2,000 miles north to Anchorage, from Anchorage, north of Anchorage. And the equipment is off because of something. Dun, dun, dun. And they're like, "What's going on?" I don't know why their stuff's off, but we'll find out. And him and her are great together and fun. So when he gets there, that's when she's there. The captain meets up with her, and they're just a whole lot of fun together. And he is talking about a date that they went on that he passed out at. And he says, "You drank all those drinks?" Like it's some little thing. Like, and she's pretty much like the Marion of this whole thing. Like, yeah, I drank all those drinks. Like, she can hold her liquor and he couldn't. So it's really cool. And then they're talking with the doctor, and he's explaining that something crashed, like, away from them. And they don't know what it is. Is it a UFO, whatever? And it's top secret. And the Air Force says, "No, we can't, you can't." The newspaper guy, that Ned Scotty, he wants to talk to people. And they're like, no, you can't call this in. Are you crazy? And he's like, "I'm sitting on the story of a lifetime." And they use thermite bombs to melt the ice. Then the ship's engine explodes. And then they find a man under the ice. Now, what's cool about that is they're like, "Hey, we're going to set the thermite bombs around this spaceship. We're going to blow it up, and that'll just melt the ice, and we'll have the spaceship. And when they set off the thermite bombs, it blows up the ship's engine, and they can't find the spaceship. Like, it's destroyed. So now they're like, great. Then they look like, it looks like when the thing crashed, literally, when the spaceship crashed and the thing in it crashed, then the thing walked out and then fell over in the snow and ice and froze to death. And froze, not to death, froze. And so then they find him under the ice and they cut him out. And there's a real cool part, and I love the acting and the dialogue. The captain, why do I have that already? I'm sorry. Sorry, I jumped to that already. Sorry about that. So they take the ice and they move it to their place. This does work with it, sorry. They move the thing to the storeroom at their place, at their facility, at their outpost. And the part I'm talking about that I love the acting and the dialogue, the captain says, open that window of the storeroom so they can make it cold in there so that ice will stay cold. So, because they're waiting on the big officials from the Air Force to come down. And he says, open that window to the storeroom. And the guy says, and then the guy's trying to mess with the window, so off camera you hear him go, it won't open. And then they're all talking to each other about, what are we going to do with this alien? Oh, my God, is it an alien? What is it? Oh, this is so cool. And then all of a sudden, just in the middle of this conversation, the captain says, break that window. So the guy breaks the window. Like, here he is going, it don't open, it won't open. And then they're just, da-da-da-da-da, and then break that window. Oh, so good. I love the dialogue. I think I've told you guys, I used to write scripts, and I love dialogue, just crisp, great dialogue. I love. And then the message is coming through for them, but it's fouled up, so it's like there's like missing pieces in it. And while the man is reading the broken message, the others are talking over him. So he's talking about like, and then they said something about, okay, we're going to try to show up. And then I couldn't hear the rest of it. And then, and while he's talking, the others are just talking about, well, do you think it'll stay there? And da-da-da. And then one of the guys comes in and says, hey, Captain, can I talk to you for a second? Captain's like, yeah, sure. And he goes in and he's like, yeah, what's up? And he's like, that thing looks so creepy through the ice that, so-and-so is freaked out by watching it, that you put him watching it for 4 hours. So I was wondering if we could split it from 4 to 2 hours so he doesn't have to be with it so long. And he's like, okay, then we'll split it 2. You go now, I'll go at 2. The other guy will come at 4. And he's like, okay. And it's those little things that you love, those little touches. Like, that didn't need to even be there. It needed to be there to be like, hey, this thing looks creepy. They didn't show it. It was like Jaws, it's like the shark in Jaws. You're like, oh my God, it sounds horrible. But that little touch I just love it. And one of the guys is freaked out, that guy that's freaked out by the creature in the block of ice. So he throws a blanket over it so he doesn't have to look at it. But it's an electric blanket. And it melts the ice and the monster wakes up. Dun dun. See, we wouldn't have a movie if the monster didn't wake up. And the creature's attacking the dogs. And, he beats up that guy, and then he goes out, and they show from, like, a little bit away, like maybe a medium shot, not a long shot, but like maybe a long shot. Anyway, but the creature's, like, beating up these dogs. Like, there's 4 or 5 dogs, and he's just throwing them around, and you hear them barking and yelping, and it's like, oh, my God. Like, I was thinking that must have been pretty violent for 1951. Like, it's insane. But this is such a good movie. Everybody, it's like $2.99 on Google Play, $2.99 on Amazon, and buy it for $10. So good. But then they call it an intellectual carrot because its arm gets ripped off by one of the dogs. So they bring the arm in and they're analyzing it, and they realize, oh, it's like a plant-based thing. And it's this plant organism that feeds on blood. And it's just so good. And then then they're all looking for the creature. So now the creature's gone. He's beat up the dogs, killed the dogs, and they're looking for him. And so they're hunting through their little facility, and they find in the greenhouse. They're like, hey, wait, that door's open. Is he in here? And they all surround this one storage area, and they open it up, and there's a dead dog in there. And again, for 1951, it's a dummy of a dog, but it looks like a dog, and it's dead. And for anybody to see like a dead dog, like I would think that'd be like, whoa, But, it's 1951. I just think that pushed the limits a bit. And there's a good scare when they open the door and the thing is there, so they close it. So they're in that storeroom, and they're going up to and the door's closed, and then they go up to it, and they have all their guns and everything, and they're ready, and the other guys are coming from the other way, and all of a sudden they open the door, and it's right there, right at the door, and it starts trying to grab at him, and they're trying to close the door, and it gets like its hand caught a little bit, and they're still trying to close the door, and finally he pulls his hand out, pulls his hand in, and the door closes, and then they lock the door. And some more fun dialogue that I like on that scene is the newspaper guy. So the captain says, "Did you get a picture, Scotty?" And he says, "No, you were in the way. The door wasn't open long enough." And he says, "Want me to open again?" And he goes, "No." So it was like just that while they're messing around, like trying to block the door, and this little conversation's going on. So good. And the doctor takes that arm and plants some spores and then uses blood to water them. Like he puts them on a table and he puts them in some dirt or whatever, and they grow at a fast rate. And he's like, "Oh my God, look at this. This is, just like, like Ash in Alien. Like, oh my God, this is amazing." And then the captain finds out and wants to destroy the plants. Then a communique comes in that says to keep the creature alive until the general can get there. And so then they're like, oh my God. And then they talk about burning it. Like the captain's like, screw it. Let's burn it. So they're like, okay. So all the lights go out, and there's a cool shot when the monster bursts in the door and he's backlit. So it's just like it's like done in darkness. You can see them a little bit. All of a sudden when that door busts open, there's white behind him, and you see him in the doorway. And it's like, holy shit. And then, so you're like, and the music kicks on, and you're like, And so they throw kerosene on him. Then they shoot him with a flare gun, and he's on fire. And then they throw more kerosene on him. And he jumps out the window and into the snow, and he runs away. And from what I read, this is believed to be the first full body burn accomplished by a stuntman. It's like, I can't, like in 1951, like nobody saw this. Like I was thinking, even watching it, like that's really good. Like, now you don't see it as much anymore, but there in the 80s, there was always a guy on fire in some movie. But veteran stuntman Tom Steele replaced James Arness in this scene. Steele wore an asbestos suit with a special fiberglass helmet with an oxygen supply underneath. He used 100% oxygen supply, which was highly combustible. It was pure luck he didn't burn his lungs whilst breathing in the mixture. So that's understandable about burning his lungs because he's going to be breathing, but also oxygen is highly flammable. So it's insane. But somebody said, let's try this. And some crazy guy, Tom Steele, said, I'll do it. Like, so good, though. You guys got to check it out. I'm sure on YouTube you could find that scene, but it's so great. Now they're going to so now they're like, fire doesn't work, because then he went and put himself out in the snow. So they're going to electrocute the monster. The electrician figures that part out, and it's another cool thing where it's not just a regular guy going, hey, why don't we electrocute him? It's this electrician going, how about we electrocute him? And they're like, how would you do that? And he's like, well, I got these posts that we put up, and then we can put add it to a battery. Well, how much power are we going to use? Well, we'll take one of the generators and we'll run it right to that, and we can share the other generator. And it's like, it was just so like real life stuff that's kind of cool. And the monster's trying to freeze him out, so he's cut off all the generators. except for the one that's going to give them power. And it's really cool because it's cold. Like on the set, you can see their breath. And it's like, oh, wow, they really like made it cold. Like, that's pretty cool. And, excuse me, setting up the trap to electrocute the monster is cool. Like I said, that's where it's like real world, like applications, like pretty cool. They try to electrocute and the doctor cuts the power. And I'm like, motherfucker, like you're so invested in this movie. Like I hadn't seen it for, maybe a year and a half. And so when they cut the power, you forget. And you're like right when they're getting ready to electrocute him and the doctor cuts the power, you're like, motherfucker. And then the doctor tries to talk to him and he goes up there and the thing just knocks him over. And there's a cool part where they need the creature. They're going to electrocute him. They need him on the walkway. So it's just like the 82 thing, which most people have seen, on the wooden planks in the middle that are on the dirt. And next to the wooden planks is dirt. And the creature is on the walkway, but it steps off the walkway. Where they have the electricity stuff is on the walkway. But before they can do it, it steps off the walkway. And the captain throws his axe down toward the monster's feet, and it slides toward the monster's feet, and he just hops back up on the walkway. And then they just pull the power and they electrocute him, and oh, it's so great. Like that little thing, like they're like, no, he's not on the walkway. And the captain just throws his axe down, and it slides over there, and the guy jumps. Oh, so good. And he gets shocked, and he shrinks down to just a little thing. Like they actually had one of the little people, Billy, I forget, Billy Burke or Billy something, was played the little him. So when he's shrinking, you see him real small, and you're like, that's really weird. Like it's a really cool effect. And he dies. And the captain and their girlfriend have a good conversation with the captain's crew, which is really cool. And at the end, Scotty says, watch the skies everywhere. Keep looking. Keep watching the skies. Bum, bum, bum. Oh, so good. You guys got to check that movie out. I'm thinking, here's what I'm thinking. I'm going to get into the thing 1982 now, but I'm thinking that one I might like that better than 1982. I don't know. There's something about it. Maybe I'll have to split those and that's one of my favorite sci-fi movies. 1950s sci-fi and 80s, horror sci-fi is the thing. Yeah, I'll do that. Anyway. Okay, now The Thing 1982, the plot. A research team in Antarctica is hunted by a shape-shifting alien that assumes the appearance of its victims. Stars Kurt Russell as McCready. Now everybody's going, oh, now you're on to names that I know. Wilford Brimley as Dr. Blair. Some people are like, who's Wilford Brimley? 80s kids are like, oh, yeah, Wilford Brimley. T.K. Carter as Knowles. He was in a lot of those 80s movies, skinny black guy. David Clennon as Palmer. Keith David as Childs. Richard Dysart as Dr. Copper. Charles Hallahan as Vance Norris. Peter Maloney as George Bennings. Richard Mazar from Time Rider and Shoot to Kill. He's the guy that takes care of the dogs. He's Clark. And that's where, because I was like, I know this guy from somewhere. And every time I watch this movie, I know him from somewhere. And Time Rider and Shoot to Kill, I was like, that's where I know him from. And Donald Moffat as Gary, Joe Polis as Fuchs, and Thomas G. Waits as Windows. And the screenplays by Bill Lancaster, from the story by John W. Campbell, and it's directed by John Carpenter. So, to start off with, John Carpenter was clear that he didn't want to compete with the old film, which was greatly beloved by him. So he went back to the novella on which both films were based. So that was cool. And it's got the same title as the other one. And, same title, except it says John Carpenter's The Thing, and the thing's being melted or burning, whatever. And so it starts with this helicopter chasing a dog and shooting at it. And you're like, what the hell's going on? And the helicopter lands, and the helicopter ends up blowing up because they were trying to use explosives to kill the dog. And the other guy chases the dog to Station 4. The man that got out of the helicopter shoots and hits a man that the dog ran to. Then they kill the man trying to kill the dog. So, like, the helicopter explode, kill that guy, and then they kill the other guy. Now it's like, what are these guys thinking? So they're like, oh, well, the helicopter said this. It's a Norwegian. There's a Norwegian outpost, and that's where they're from. So they go check the Norwegian outpost where the helicopter came from, and the dog stays behind. And they're showing the dog, and it's a little eerie, like, what's up with this dog? And I don't know why none of them thought, what's up with this dog? But so at the Norwegian base, I put Carnage, Suicide, and Hollowed Out Block of Ice. So that's pretty cool, where they did that from the first one, had that big block of ice, and that was cool. And instead of building an entire new set for the Norwegian base camp, Carpenter simply filmed those scenes in the charred remnants of Outpost 31 after it was blown up for the movie's climactic finale. So, he's always been an indie filmmaker type thing, and he's like, wait, we can just do this. And they find a weird mutated type of human body, and they bring it back to the base, and they do an autopsy. And I was thinking about, like, I don't know, you'd be like, should we bring it back? Like, what if it's got disease? What if we spread it through our, place? But I guess they didn't think of that. And if they didn't, there wouldn't be a movie. So, point. Now, the dog is waiting in the kennel with the others. Here's the part that fucking creeped me out as a kid. The dog starts to mutate, and the other dogs go crazy. And one's even biting through the fucking chain link, and you're like, this dog is fucking scared because he's biting through the fucking chain link. It's like, oh my God. And then that dog just fucking bursts open like its jaws, and it's got things coming out of it and wrapping around the other dogs, and it's this crazy monster. And McCready's like, grab the flamethrower, and they bring the flamethrower, and he's like, torch it, and they torch it. And then Blair is asking Clark, like, how long were you with that dog? And he's like, what are you talking about? And then everybody starts questioning, like, they don't know who to trust, and it becomes this whole, paranoid, thing. So cool. And then they go out to find, they're watching videos that the Norwegians had, and the video shows a spaceship that they found. And so McCready and them go out, and they see how big the spaceship is, and they figure that it's been there for 100,000 years. So they're like, oh my God, this thing's been sitting in the ice for 100,000 years. And then they realize that it's an imitation, that it imitated the dog, and that everybody has to be careful. And one of them is partially mutating, and they kill him. So that one, he's got, it's not Fuchs, but it's the other guy. And he runs out, and they're like, hey, and they go to chase him. And when they get around the front of him, his hands haven't quite finished mutating to become human. And so then they torch him, and he screams like this high-pitched screams, very weird. And then Blair, the doctor, disables the chopper. And then he is disabling their communication and has killed the rest of the dogs. And he doesn't want the monster to spread any farther. And they overpower him and they lock him away. And what's cool about that, there's a little, again, this is little dialogues, and it was kind of more on the nose, kind of sad. But it was when Clark is watching him tear up the communication stuff, then I think it's that TK Carter guy comes in, and he's like, he killed all the dogs. And Clark is like devastated because those are Clark's dogs. Like, he's taking care of all those dogs, and they're all dead now. And it's like, oh. And so then, like I said, they lock Blair away, and Blair tells McCready, like, watch Clark, keep an eye on Clark. And it's like, holy shit. Like, oh my God. Like, all this fucking, And then they start asking, how would you know if I'm an imitation? So then one of them says, well, I was thinking of this blood test, that we could do a blood test. And they're like, okay. And then they go to get their blood out of the freezer or whatever. They go to the blood, and the blood's all been destroyed. And so you're like, holy shit. Like, all the blood is gone. All the packets of blood are busted open. No blood at all. And it's like, holy shit. Like, this is crazy. And it's just so good because then you're like, oh, fuck. Like, who is it? Like, now you're on board, too. Like, who is it? Who do we trust? And Fuchs, when they find Fuchs, they're like, Fuchs burned himself before it could get to him. And it's like, whoa. Like, I don't know. I mean, I guess you don't know if it's going to be painful, and, you do that to save some people. But, oof. That's dark. And then McCready might be one, because then they're like, look, we found this, ripped up clothing, and it says McCready on it. And you're like, oh, what the hell? And the defibrillator scene is so cool. So when the guy starts having a heart attack, and they drag him over, and they think it's a heart attack, and they put him on the thing, and he's not breathing and no heartbeat. And so they grab the defibrillators, and it's this great effect. And that's where you get you got to be fucking kidding. And the way they did that, so they're pumping on his chest with the defibrillator, and right when he goes to do it, the chest opens, the guy's hands go in, it clamps his hand, bites his arms off. And he's like, and then that thing becomes a thing and comes out of shoots up to the ceiling, and then the head comes off and crawls across the ground, and that's when that guy says, you got to be fucking kidding me. And the way they did that was, they found a man who had lost both of his arms below the elbow in an industrial accident, and Rob Bottin fit the man with 2 prosthetic forearms consisting of wax bones, rubber veins, and jello. Then for the wide-angle shot, he fit the man with a skin-like mask taken from a mold of Dysart's face, a la Hannibal Lecter, and placed the fake arms into the chest cavity, where a set of mechanical jaws clamped down on them. As the actor pulled his arms away, the jello arms severed below the elbows. The rest is practical effects history. And that's such a good effect, and so fucking makes you jump, like, holy shit, like that chest, like his hands just go in and boom, like all that right away. The monster fucking shoots up to the ceiling, head falls off, grows legs and tentacles and runs away, and you're like, holy shit, gets burned. Oh, so good. And then testing the blood scene is so fucking great. God damn it. He's got all the blood there, and he's like, well, let's see. And he's got this little wire of, it's a hot wire, and he pushes it into the blood, nothing. Push it into the blood, nothing. And even the guys that he just killed, one of them. He killed Clark because Clark was going after somebody, and he shot Clark. And then he tests Clark's blood, and Clark's not a monster. And Childs goes, so that was murder. It's like, whoa, yeah, it was. And and then he, and then all the guys are like, okay, if I'm not it, then give me a gun, and I'm not it, give me a flamethrower. And then they test the one guy, and the fucking monster comes out of the Petri dish, and they're like, and they drop it, and they fucking, kill it. And then that thing, he's on the couch, and he's fucking going crazy, and they finally kill him. And then there's one guy left. And one of my favorite lines is, I know you gentlemen have been through a lot, but when you find the time, I'd rather not spend the rest of this winter tied to this fucking couch. And then they release it. Oh, so good. And then they go to get Doc, but he is missing. And they notice that Blair, the doctor, is making some kind of ship. Now I'm thinking, what if this is alien like E.T.? What if he just wants to go home? And everybody's fucking with him. Like, stop fucking with me and let me go back home. But they keep getting in his way, so he has to kill him. So maybe he's innocent, but I doubt it. Sorry, one of the dogs was going nuts. But they blow up the little ship and agree that they have to kill the thing, and not let it freeze again, because then they'll all die and it'll just be thawed out again and it'll kill more people. And then Childs is gone, and so is Doc. And then Doc kills the old man, I don't want to spend the rest of the time tied to this fucking couch. Kills him, and Doc is the Thing. And now there's this very cool transformation when it comes from MacReady. And it's like this big giant thing, and then MacReady throws the dynamite, kaboom, and kills it. And there's a thing in here, I don't know which dynamite it was, but it was on the audio commentary. Russell threw an actual stick of dynamite during a scene toward the end of the film. He did not know it was going to be so powerful, and he was literally blown backwards after it blew up. And this take was left in the film. So I think it's one of the ones where he throws it outside out the door. He's throwing it at something, like maybe a dead body, or throwing it at something to blow up, and it blows up, and you see him kind of get thrown back. So it's pretty cool. And then Childs and MacReady are now back together. MacReady asks where he went. Says that he thought that he saw Blair, so he went chasing after him. But did he? So Childs and MacReady just wait to see what happens. Nobody knows if they are the Thing. And they filmed an additional scene where MacReady is rescued and appears in a room where he is given a blood test to determine whether he has been assimilated, which he passes. Fortunately for fans of the film, this alternate finale was not needed, as Carpenter stood firmly behind the movie he had made, ambiguous ending and all. So it was like, I was thinking of it, like I've said before, my wife does not like ambiguous endings. And I think she would really be like, oh, I'm so upset. There was no ending. Like, are they? This one, she might be okay. She might be like, I wonder if they are. I like to always ask her, well, what do you think? And then she's like, I'm angry. That's what I think. But I think with this, she'd be like, well, I don't know. And the thing is, where they keep going, well, why is MacReady's clothes ripped? What's going on there? But he would have changed already because, anyway. And not our Kurt Russell. But, yeah, it's a really good movie. They're both real good. I hope I didn't seem like I rushed through it. I know I rewrote everything. I write it into my own little script so I can read it in my own words. I take my little notes and then I expand on those. So I hope you enjoyed it. And I was trying to think of something to do. I enjoy these little solo shows that I do, and I had been wanting to do both things for a while, and so I had it in my book. I have a book of ideas, and that's one of the ideas. The other one is a Howard Hughes. I'll do The Aviator and The Outlaw, and so I might do that sometime. But next up is going to be another horror thing for the episode on the 23rd. So I got to figure out what that's going to be, but it'll be fun. It'll be something cool. So, I finally figured out a way to end the show. And the way to end the show is with a dialogue from one of the movies that we just saw. So, that we just talked about. So, the way that I would end this show is, you gotta be fucking kidding.